Okay, hello. Um, sh- uh, in the in the past in the past 3 weeks, in fact, yeah, we I give briefly let you know the energy efficiency, energy conversion technologies, and energy efficiency for buildings, and also how so there's the carbon peaking, carbon neutrality, and also the correlation between energy efficiency and carbon emissions and how carbon emissions uh, result in the global warming. And last week, we gave a full picture of, in fact, because one of you approached me, asked me why, some specific technologies. In fact, if you look at energy efficiency technologies, during lecture one, I let you know almost all, okay, energy efficiency technologies. They are mostly for active energy efficiency technologies, including like um, for air conditioning system, for lighting fixtures. In fact, I give you the full picture already. So, but sometimes, for example, last week I let you know what is green architecture, and and how the green architecture design help us achieve building energy efficiency and also low carbon communities. And then I mainly for passive design strategies because I mainly for share with you the passive design strategies. Sure, passive design strategies. We will look at um, so the building external walls, the roof, and the glazing windows. So I mentioned with you, including U value and the importance optical properties. One reason I mentioned more about optical properties, that is because usually they were ignored. Okay, they were ignored previously. And if you for other energy efficiency technologies, it's very easy for you to sort out information. And today, in fact, according to the teaching arrangement, we will talk more about how to integrate renewable energy technologies into our buildings. So, firstly, I think if you for the whole picture, then later maybe I mainly focus on solar energy application. Then don't ask me why, because but I mention all technologies. However, I think the mature if the technology is mature or if it's easily can be implemented integrated into our buildings, then if for those technologies, um, I will put more focus or efforts on them. So, firstly, regarding how to integrate renewable energy technologies into our buildings, I think very important we need to understand the natural or renewable energy sources. So, like last time I mentioned, so look at, I think it's, so for our buildings, I think the main renewable energy sources, the first is the solar energy. Okay, is the solar energy because the Earth receives a large amount of energy, which is thousands of times our power energy use required for our Earth. Okay. And then I think it's last time I think we didn't finish this part is if our buildings, the building envelope or our building can also make use of the cold universe. Okay, as we also know, the cooling capacity is huge as well. Is huge as well. And sure, the common is another common renewable energy source is the is wind. So we will spend, I think, around 10 to 15 minutes to let you know more about wind power, let you know the wind patterns, and also wind power generation. So by using wind turbine. And sure, so in fact, for your building design, you may also consider the water cycle, the dynamic water cycle. So that's for hydropower. Even Hong Kong, we have many freshwater reservoirs. Okay, so they can also make use of the potential energy for power generation. For our buildings, sure. So make use of the water evaporation condensation is also very common. Okay, so we are using water evaporation to cool down our the condenser or our chiller plant or our air conditioner or our chiller plant and sure so the evaporation condensation of water and water vapor also hold large amount of energy we can make use because evaporation it can provide cooling. Okay, it will absorb heat from its surrounding. It can provide cooling. So for the condensation process, it will reject. It will release heat. Okay, release the heat. So how to evaluate the energy? So using the specific enthalpy of vaporization of water is also huge. So think about them and try to see if they can be integrated into your building design in maybe in different ways. And then to summarize, generally, when we talk about renewable energy sources, so we mentioned so it's mainly so we see is solar energy. Okay, so because the Earth is receiving large amount of solar energy, and then the second is wind power. Is wind is from the wind. Okay, sure. Through the so and also there is biomass energy. So through different conversion technologies, we can convert the biomass into biofuels or directly use. Okay, or directly use. So from biomass energy, usually through different conversion technologies, so biofuels, we can produce biofuels or directly use biofuels. Sure, we know, say, um, for geothermal energy, I think that's not very common because so we have to consider the geothermal energy resources. However, there's a ground source heat pump. We can also consider as geothermal energy, but it's not real geothermal energy because for our ground source heat pump, we try to make use of the temperature difference between the soil underground soil and the air, so the geothermal energy. So then they also, so for renewable energy, so people also, okay, working on blue energy. So it's ocean energy. So for ocean energy, so including wave energy and tidal energy, which are totally different. Okay, wave energy and tidal energy. So they're, so forming um, mechanism are different. And also, I think we will also mention mainly the coolness, how to make use of the coolness of universe. And sure, this is Hong Kong is what's the name of the reservoir? So we can see so we can also make use of it for as for hydroelectricity. Okay, make use of the potential energy of the reservoir. I cannot remember the English name, so it's very famous. Let me check. We always knows the famous star, okay? 周润发 always hiking there, okay? So go there and maybe you will meet him and meet other stars. Titan Reservoir, okay? This is the um, and hydropower. So we can see, and even in our department, Professor Hong Xin Yang, he's working on evaporative cooling. Okay, evaporative cooling. So you may have also the experience in some government buildings without air conditioning. Sometimes they provide evaporative cooler. Okay, evaporative cooler to cool down those open spaces. So look at all these technologies. I think we all have the chances to make use of them and integrate their technologies into your building design and into your building energy systems. So let's look at the details. So I think I spent 5 to 10 minutes to let you know more about wind power. So wind power is the kinetic energy from the wind. It's kinetic energy. So what is wind? Wind is air movement. Air movement. Why there is air movement? It's driven by the temperature difference or pressure difference. Okay, the movement is driven by pressure difference or temperature difference. So that is the reason. So before typhoon, you feel very hot because your region will become a low pressure region. Okay, low pressure region. And and for energy, but wind energy is the with the cubic relationship of its velocity. So one is very important. There is a cubic relationship between the wind velocity and and wind power. Okay. So then so due to this cubic relationship, so for the site selection for wind farm, so good wind is very important. Although we also need to understand the air average wind velocity and also the distribution. Okay, so we have Weber distribution, different distribution to describe the wind conditions for one location. So this is a wind power. We can wind kinetic energy, so deriving from the the equation, the formula. So this is for I think this for the equation is this is the mass flow rate of the wind and velocity. There's a square. Okay, this is the derived equation to describe the relationship of wind power and also the wind velocity. So generally, wind we can see is cold air, okay, from the wind. So they flow towards the land, okay. So then the wind is heated by the land because the land will absorb solar energy, and then warm air will rise up. Okay. Then it's therefore we understand for our Earth, for the region there is prevailing wind directions and wind patterns. So for wind power, so generation technology, it is convert the wind kinetic energy to electricity. So, however, it will if you undergo several energy conversion processes. The first one is the blades and the rotor. So it will capture the wind kinetic energy and convert it into a rotational mechanical power. However, we observed that the rotation speed is really low. Rotation rotation speed is really low. Okay, so it's difficult for power generation. Okay, so therefore we need a gearbox. Okay, there's a need a gearbox to convert the gearbox, convert the low rotation speed to higher rotating speed for the power generator. So finally, there is a power generator with a higher speed shaft. So to convert it, the rotational mechanical energy to electricity. So that is the energy conversions, the energy conversion processes. Okay. So therefore, we can see for wind power, wind turbine, its working principle is to capture the wind kinetic energy and convert it into rotational mechanical power, and then through a power generator to electrical power. So this is a a little history of the wind turbine technology. So before we know in ancient time, we also have wind turbines, but we mainly use of the mechanical energy, okay, for grinding seas, for our power, the borehole water, underground borehole water to pump water. We mainly in ancient time, we are using the rotational mechanical power for grading seas. Okay, for I think it's yeah, for borehole to pump water from underground. Okay, the application mainly for mechanical rotational mechanical power. And then in 1891, so this Danish scientist, inventor, and educationalist developed the first electrical wind machine. So that's also following the invention of the power generator. Okay, the power generator. Okay, for AC power, for AC alternative current power. So after the invention of the power generator, so then the Danish scientist developed the first electrical wind machine. After that, they're using the aerodynamic design principles for the blades, okay, to better capture the wind kinetic energy. And so there is a fast development of the wind turbine industry, especially after 1970s, because 1970s, that period in time period encountered energy crisis and the fast development of modernization and urbanization. So therefore, after that, we can see the turbine larger. I think now the largest, even maybe as I remember, 1 or 2 years ago, is huge, one wind turbine. Okay, almost the rated power of the largest wind turbine is almost 15 megawatt. So we can see the diameters, the height, okay, is really high. So it's like a giant building. Okay, a giant wind turbine is like a huge high-rise building, the height. I think now is more than 200-meter high. So however, the good thing is because we understand that wind increases with the height. Wind increases with the height. So our experience, if you are 10-meter high, so there's wind velocity, and there's 100-meter high. So your experience at a high level, you experience stronger wind. Okay, then there is a relationship. Okay, there is relationship. Wind velocity increases with the height above the ground. Okay, that's very common. And how it changes is following this equation. So you may ask, what about alpha? For different terrains, okay, rough or smooth, they are different. Okay, usually we can use in 1/7 flow, okay, to roughly calculate the wind velocity at high level. Then now you understand if the tower is higher, more than 200-meter higher, sure, it receives stronger, much larger wind. Okay, so that's one. The giant wind turbine can experience stronger wind for better wind uh, capture. So for the wind turbine itself, usually include, according to the in mainly classified into vertical axis turbines. So this is the axis, the rotor, okay, is vertical. So the blades rotating horizontally. Okay. So we look at the vertical axis turbines. So the advantages including with the omnidirectional. It can accepts wind from any direction. Okay. And also the components can be mounted at ground level and even can be mounted on your buildings. Okay. So small scale one. Okay. So because it can accept wind from all directions. And it has lighter weight towers and theoretically it use less material to capture the same amount of wind. However, it has its disadvantages. That's the reason why you feel very little. Okay, not so many wind turbines with vertical axis turbines. That is because of rotors, because at a lower level, you see the wind is poor. Okay, it's poorer. So, and their poor self-starting capability requires support at the top of a turbine rotor. Okay, they need support and requires entire rotor to be removed to replace the bearing. So, relatively, I think poor performance compared to horizontal one, and reliability. However, in recent years, I can also see many scientists also working the vertical axis turbine. Okay, I believe they can overcome these disadvantages for further their applications. So the most common one, so we can see the wind turbines. Even so, when your air flight landing in Hong Kong, so you will see the offshore wind turbines. So we will see there's a vertical. They are vertical axis wind turbines. So according to their capacities, so we can classify it into small scale. Their smaller one, even several 100 watt. Okay, several 100 watt. So they can be used for our individual household or the farms or remote applications like for water pumping, telecom sites. That's for small scale. I think that they are mainly for standalone system, so without utility grade. Sure, we have the intermediate type and also the large type with the rated power or 250 kilowatt and above. So look at the main components. So they're including the support tower. So if you is, however, nowadays you will see many offshore wind farm. So the supporting the foundation, okay, is another consideration. So if it's offshore wind farm, they are even working on foundation. Okay, so for the foundation design, so there are different design methods for the foundation for the offshore wind power. Although for offshore wind power, we prefer the seawater with shallow, okay, seawater depth. Okay, however, the floating foundation structure make it possible if in the deep sea, because the deep sea, for the land, for the uh, water, sea water surfaces, water around Hong Kong, they can be very busy if the deeper area, okay, stronger wind, and also that's one of the possibilities. So regarding the floating, the foundation for offshore wind farm. So there are many researchers working on the supporting structure, okay? And also the aerodynamic design of the rotors, okay? To make it capture the most. However, later we will know there is Benz's law. The maximum finger of the blades can capture the wind is 59.3%. So the maximum captured kinetic energy from the wind is 59.3%, is perfect with the perfect aerodynamic blade design. So therefore, and sure, if I'm asking true and false, the wind turbine, the power efficiency is 60%. Definitely it's wrong. Okay? Because the maximum, later we have a video, we know more about why only, so the maximum is 59.3. It is Benz's law. And if in the future for the exam test, I ask you, oh, this turbine perfect design with efficiency is 60%, then the answer definitely no, because there's the maximum value and also the mechanical losses and conversion losses. So usually, I think the efficiency, even for the rated wind speed, strong speed, I think the efficiency is only around 30%. And then the other is you will ask about when the direction will vary all the time. In fact, we have the we have the we have the tracing, okay, component to trace the wind direction. The other is we know for wind farms there is a protection if there is typhoon, strong wind, okay, there's a cut off wind speed. So if we will cut off, if the wind speed is over 25 meter per second, etc., so it is we will the system we will stop the operation of the wind for self-protection. So, and also, as I just mentioned, you can see for the offshore wind turbine, although we prefer for shallow water. So this is for onshore, is simple for the foundation and the support tower. If for the shallow with the water depth is only 0 to 30 meter per second, so we can using the monopile. So we are using the monopile foundation. And then deeper, then we're using the tripod foundation. And if it's then deeper than 40 meter per second, then we will consider the floating structure to support the wind turbine. And also, I just mentioned, so the wind, okay, the wind is coming, and some of the wind will be captured by the wind turbines. Then it will causing the turbulence. Okay, it will causing turbulence. And just also I mentioned because so the wind turbine like causing that is weak effect causing turbulence. So therefore this design is not good, right? So the wind speed needs recovery. Okay, So if the wind turbine, you install right behind it, it will cannot work effectively. So therefore, when we talk about wind farm, we not only think about the single turbine, but also uh, the the layout plan of the wind turbines to make sure the distance let the wind recovered for effective operation. So in fact, for wind power technology, there's a lot we can talk. We needed to know. However, so maybe through this video, I think you better understand the working principle and all the components well. Okay, I think even better than me to explain. Okay, how the wind turbine works and also what are the main wind turbine components. I just also mentioned with you the supporting structure for offshore and also the turbulence, the cost after passing the wind passing through one wind turbine, the turbulence. So then we can see it's for wind turbine, we understand how it works, but for the wind farm, we also need to understand the wind flows. Okay, yeah, I think we understand the main components working principle and including the airfoil design of the blades and why we need gearbox and also the yaw control to trace the wind directions and also conversion efficiency, including the limit. And from the curve, we can also see, so this is Benz's limit. Okay, however, in fact, if you have interest, you can search, and there is a proofing formula and processes. Okay, so and and we can see the development of the wind turbines at the moment. Okay, I think still keep there around 40 something. Okay, because that is the perfect airfoil designed blades can capture 59.3% of upstream wind, but there is mechanical losses. Okay, so there's a mechanical rotating. There are other losses for power generator. There's losses. So we consider all losses. I think at the moment the efficiency at rated power is around 40 something. Okay. So also I have provided you the the link. Okay, if you think because I think the video cover most knowledge I try to share with you. So some of the insights and the points may be examined. Okay, because all the materials we shared and presented during lectures will be examined. And then you will think, okay, those are for wind farms or offshore wind farms. What about our buildings? In fact, many years ago, I started. Okay, I began to investigate if we can also the wind power density and how wind increases or changes due to the wind concentration effect and due to the building height. And so therefore, because good wind is very important for us to install wind turbine. So I think over 16 years ago, I published one paper, see if we can, the possibility of we integrate the wind turbines into our buildings for buildings due to the concentration effect. So you see the concentration effect, okay? Between the buildings, the wind much stronger and even due to the height effect, okay? The velocities on the top at a high level, but it also increased significantly. And later, we found that there are many architects. Okay, so integrate them into the building design. Okay, you can see this is the New London Tower. So they just design the wind turbine at high level, okay, and convert it, okay, so the turbine into the building design uh, for power generation, and even Bahrain World Trade Center. So these three famous turbines, okay, between the buildings, so the concentration effect, and also, okay, it's facing the sea, new facade technology. Okay, it's expected the three turbines can generate around 11 to 15% of the total electricity consumption of the two office towers. So there's a feasibility even in Hong Kong, in some areas. So we can install small scale wind turbines, okay, for those places without utility grid to provide electricity power. And then that's for wind. Then let's talk about biomass energy. So because I think why uh, because some of you ask me about it. In fact, every time I will give you a full picture, all the possibilities, but then I will focus one or two topics. Okay, that's my. So that's the reason I also mention other renewable energy sources, although we will not elaborate them. And then is biomass energy. So what is a biomass? So all organic non-fossil materials, all biological organisms that are alive, and all plant, all animals with the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. But we cannot consider all the biomass as uh, considered as the source of energy, biomass energy. So for the common sources of biomass energy, mainly including the woody type, non-woody type, and other organics, so including the organic waste, okay, even the food residues, okay, food residues, the organic waste from the animals, from our urban uh, uh, urban cities. And so for woody type and non-woody type, it's easy for us to understand the simple combustion, okay, of them, will release heat and light. So that's what we expect. And but for other organic waste, it's difficult for direct use. So there is several conversion technologies. I think it's pyrolysis, fermentation. There are many technologies to convert other organic waste into biofuels. Biofuels. Okay, I will not elaborate them. And then what is geothermal energy? Geothermal energy is thermal energy generated and stored in the earth. So one truth is, we can see here, our globe, 99% of our globe is hotter than 1000 degrees Celsius. Okay? Only the very shallow crust of our earth with the cooler surface, okay, with the cooler surface, because our inner core, okay, the inner core, the temperature similar to the sun, okay, the inner core of our earth is, I think it's, I cannot remember, it's over 4000 degrees Celsius or something. So the inner core of our earth is super hot, okay, it's super hot. So only the crust, a shallow depth of a crust, so with the surface temperature is lower. And 99% of our globe is hotter than 1000 degrees Celsius. So therefore, you may think, where's the energy from? So one is originates from the original formation of the planet after the Big Bang, okay? And then also from the radioactive decay of materials, okay? And so what is geothermal energy? We consider usually is the geothermal gradient, okay? So is the difference in temperature between the core of the planet and its surface, okay? So this is I think now people okay attempts to go to the space, but the inner side of the earth is untouchable, okay, is untouchable. And then so in fact we have from here we can see our earth in fact is very hot, okay, and super hot. So then we understand, so the geothermal energy, okay, is huge with a huge amount of geothermal energy, but it's difficult to be exploited by a human because it's too hot. Okay, the temperature is too high from just like the presence of a volcano. Okay, for example, it's difficult for us to exploit those thermal energy. So generally for geothermal energy, we mention one is solar energy is the shallow ground energy, less than 100-meter depth, which are stored in the soil, surface water, and groundwater. The other is the deeper geothermal energy. So, the media holding the energy is usually the hot water and the hot rocks, sometimes also called magma. Okay, so it's 50,000 times of the energy of oil and gas resources in the world. But at the moment, I think it's difficult for human to exploit the geothermal energy. So we understand but there is a possibility for us to make use of the geothermal energy, like hot spring, hot springs, right? So that is the geothermal energy. And also, we can see there is geothermal regions, okay? They are on the plate boundaries, okay? So those areas, um, so very dangerous, okay? And because they're regions for volcanoes, earthquakes as well. We can see the Yellowstone. Yellowstone is here. Yellowstone Park. Under the Yellowstone Park is like a very hot kind of magma. Okay, so it erupts. Maybe it's a super volcano. So the whole America will disappear. And so the and also Japan. Okay, Japan and the Philippines. Okay, so California. And also here, I think the Pompeii. We know the story about the Pompeii volcano. Okay, eruptions, Pompeii, and I think we are lucky. Okay, we are not on those geothermal regions. So for the application, as I mentioned, it's difficult for human to exploit the geothermal energy. And however, for the geothermal energy application technologies, we usually classify according to the geothermal resources, their temperatures. So including if it can provide the temperature less than 90 degree, so we categorize low temperature geothermal energy resources, and the moderate one and the high temperature one is greater than 150 degree. And so the one common application for us is low temperature one is hot springs. And there's a Lindell diagram let us know how to effectively use those geothermal energy according to the available temperatures. So including if the hot water is 20, okay, is 20 something, okay, and we can use them for fish farming and soil warming. That's for the greenhouse for plants. We are making use of the heat, even for air conditioning, for heating, and for house heating, greenhouse greenhouses, etc. And if it's higher, we can use it to dry the products, to dry the fish, dry the cement blocks, to dry the agriculture products. If it's then higher, then I think it's higher than 100 degrees Celsius, because we remember the thermal efficiency during our first class, the thermal efficiency of the power generation. Okay, I think you still remember it as two temperatures. The thermal efficiency is the source, high temperature, higher efficiency. Okay, so if the available temperature of the resources very low, okay, if we are using the power generation plant, the efficiency is very low, maybe only 2%, 3%. It's not meaningful, okay? So therefore, we expect the temperature higher. If it's higher, then we can make use of those resources for power generation. So therefore, for low and moderate temperature, usually we direct for thermal application or for ground source heat pumps as the heat source. I think this is a ground source heat pump for heating. Okay, for heating. For heating. And if temperature is higher, we can use them the highest temperature for electric power generation. So for power generation, we have several types of power plants, including we using the secondary fluid to transfer the heat. Okay, for expansion, this is the turbine. So the water high temperature, high pressure vapor expand, and this expansion will rotate the shaft. The turbine rotates the shaft. If the shaft connected to the power generator, then it generates power. So I think it's a little bit, maybe if you don't have background, a little bit difficult to understand. But basically, we have to understand this is a thermal energy application, just similar to our conventional power plant. Okay, so for the resources, the temperature higher, then we can make use of them for electricity generation. So to conclude, in fact, our buildings can try to make use of those of solar energy for power generation, even for air conditioning, and even for their solar cooling. They are using solar absorption chiller plant for cooling and solar thermal. And we can integrate the turbines into our buildings. And also, there's a geothermal ground source heat pump. Geothermal ground source heat pump, because you can directly use the heat, the thermal energy, or using the shallow geothermal energy. So that means the soil temperature will not vary with the air temperature. So then here comes, we can integrate all these possible renewable energy sources and technologies into our building or our community design. So in the coming time, I will mainly focus on solar energy application and also how to harvest the coldness of our universe through the spectrally engineered building skin technologies. So the first is if we can how to make use of the solar energy for in our buildings. So firstly, we have to look at the electro-terrestrial solar spectrum. So in ancient times, so the sun is considered as revered as a divine power. And now I think we want to start it closely and harness it, okay, for our building energy system, for our end users. Then the first step, we should understand how much solar flux reaching the Earth. The first stop is the top of our atmosphere, okay? At the top of our atmosphere, so we can calculate the solar flux to the Earth, and we can calculate the spectral regulation, irradiance. So this is air mass 1.5, okay? No, that one is for the terrestrial solar spectrum, is the blue one, okay? Is the blue one. Then but we understand we have atmosphere, okay? Atmosphere is a thermal regulator. So why there's living, there is alive, okay, plants, animals. That is because we have atmosphere, okay? If you are living on the earth, no, if you have oxygen, you cannot survive because under the sun it's really hot. So at night, it's really cold because it has very, very thin atmosphere. Okay, so the atmosphere protects us. Okay, and it can be considered is thermally regulate the temperature of our Earth's surface. So that's the reason we can see how the atmosphere will absorb the solar spectrum. So this one are the top of atmosphere without atmosphere, okay? So our atmosphere, our ozone will absorb visible light and UV light, okay? So then we are talking about the ozone depletion, layer depletion. That is because it will not absorb visible light and UV light, causing the skin, the cancer of skin, etc. And also very interesting for girls here. See, water vapor only absorb near infrared light. They will not absorb, they seldom absorb visible light and UV light. Okay? So that means during cloudy day, UV light, visible light still can passing through the atmosphere to the earth. Okay, that's the reason even for cloud day, if you want to protect your skin, you also use a sunscreen. Okay, use sunscreen. So it's very interesting because our atmosphere will block and absorb some of the spectra. Okay, specific spectra. But carbon dioxide with a very tiny effect on it. Okay, carbon dioxide. And then why is that important to understand the solar spectrum? That is because we look at these other different types of solar cells. This is monocrystalline silicon solar cell, polycrystalline solar cell, different types of cell. So we can see different solar cell with different quantum efficiency for different wavelengths of the solar irradiance. So we can see the peak is here, okay? The peak is here. The power intensity, the peak is in the visible light region, okay? And so we can see for different types of solar cell, they have different external quantum efficiency for different wavelength of spectral wavelength. Okay, spectral solar spectra. Okay, this is the wavelength, and also we can see this is the solar spectrum at different sun position. Okay, so with different sun position, we can see the spectra. I think one reason is due to the changes of thickness of the atmosphere. Okay, so at noon time, there's the thinnest atmosphere, and at noon time or early morning time, so it's passing through thicker atmosphere. So they're all their spectrum. You can see the peak even will vary. Okay, so then if you want to really, some of you maybe choose to pursue PhD study or have a personal interest, then here it is, because even for different some positions, different time, the spectrum also vary. So understanding the solar spectrum reaching the Earth is very important. So the first step usually is we calculate. We have the equations to calculate. We consider the ozone absorption, the water vapor absorption, etc. We can calculate the solar spectrum at different solar altitude angles. And then we also have the program to simulate the actual solar spectrum. Then after understanding the solar spectrum, it's vary with the weather conditions, with the sun positions. Okay, then we want to know how to make use of the solar energy. So in fact, the application of solar energy totally depends on its photon energy. Albert Einstein mentioned so sunlight photons. So photons have photon energy, and we understand that so UV light with a smaller wavelength has a higher energy photon, high energy photon UV, and near infrared is low energy photons. So it's easy to understand. Low energy photons is difficult to be converted to power. So solar cell cannot convert the infrared light into power because the electrons with the small electron energy. And for the application of solar energy, usually, so including the photocatalysis, so we mainly utilize the high energy photons for UV light and visible light. So the mechanism is the photocatalysis reactions, which will occur on the surface of a photocatalyst when it is opposed to light with energy equal to or greater than its band gap. So titanium dioxide can be used for hydrogen generation, even carbon reduction and degradation of pollutants. So my research work, we are using the titanium dioxide coating, so make use of the photon energy to achieve self-cleaning property. At the same time, it can also break down organic dirt. So photocatalysis is also very popular application of solar energy. So even for water treatment, for artificial photosynthesis, and for hydrogen production, and also for self-cleaning, also for breaking the organic dirt. Then the photovoltaics, that's very popular, is this technology is to convert solar energy into power. So this one, yeah, we can see um, but it make use the photons with energy higher than the solar cell band gap. And not all the sunlight can be used. Only so the wavelength. Oh, I think it's wrong. So then later I will mention about solar photovoltaic technology. At the moment, so there are many types of solar cell and emerging solar cell like perovskite solar cell and organic solar cell and colored one. That's our research work with patents and integrate those modules into our building and and so with wide applications. So the photothermal effect is very common because all the sunlight, okay, there's a photothermal effect. So for photothermal effect is the photons are absorbed by the material to excite electrons to a higher energy states, which are then covered to heat through non-radiative decay. So there is wide applications. So this is my research work. Okay, so the solar thermal, the photothermal interface for seawater desalination. Okay, this is the surface, the uh, photothermal interface, okay, for converted into thermal energy for evaporation for seawater desalination. And sure, other application is you use the dual mode windows for application to make use of um, the cost wind difference or pressure difference due to the photothermal effects on our building elements. Another common one is solar PV technology, PVT technology. At the same time for thermal power generation and also for thermal application. So then I think last week I also mentioned my research work. I also try to introduce the the spectral regulation for thermal management of our um, technology and also to enhance the functionality, including to improve. So now there's different refined spectral regulation technologies and strategies to regulate the photons for better for energy efficiency. So I think we will spend 10 to 20 minutes on solar PV technology. I think maybe this is you are familiar with the solar PV technology. I just suppose most of you, okay, understand but I mainly share with you the main points. So, why it's called solar photovoltaic technology? Because it's based on the photovoltaic effect. So, Albert Einstein mentioned light are photons. So there's last time we have the controversial theory, but about wave. Okay, so at the moment, both work. Okay, both work. So they can explain in different way. So then photovoltaic effect is mentioned if the effect is for some specific material, if the photon, okay, we can see if the a photon exposed on the specific surface, it can release electrons, okay, electrons, and also the material. So for photovoltaic effect, the material will also just like a diode, okay, only allows one flow direction of electrons. So the electrons will, will stay on the front, collected by the metal grade, and then the backside is holes. Okay, holes. Then the electrons will accumulate on the front, and if you connect it with the external circuit, there's current, there's electron flow, which also can be considered as electron flow. So basically, we need to know solar cell is structure convert solar energy to DC electrical power. It's a DC power, okay? It is like a battery because it supplies DC power, but it's not like a battery. Later, we will know about how to evaluate the power output of a solar cell. It has a curve. Its performance is a curve. It's a RV curve. For the event tutorial session, we will know more about that. So this is the theory about photoelectric effect. It's raised by Albert Einstein. Okay, so he received his Nobel Prize in physics is due to his discovery of the law of the photoelectric effect. So, however, last week we also understand they can be also continuous waves. So that's also it developed his quantum theory. So for the solar cell, so simply we can see, okay, that's sunlight. The sunlight are photons. The photons with enough energy, it will strike off, release the electrons. Okay, then the electrons will be collected by the solar cell front grid metal. Okay, metal grid. And another magic thing is only electrons with enough energy can excite the electrons of the surface, the material. The other mystery is the materials. Okay, we will only allows one direction or electrons. Okay, only allows the electrons flow in one way. Okay, it's like a diode. So therefore, if you connect it with the external circuit, okay, see, there is electron current. So that is the electric current. I think I don't think I have time. We can watch the video, and so let me see. Maybe the video. Okay, it's short. So it's about how a solar cell works.
At the heart of conventional solar cells are two special semiconductor layers. One is called an N-type layer and the other a P-type layer. In the N-type layer, the atomic arrangement results in a surplus of electrons, which can therefore move around relatively freely. In the P-type layer, it's the opposite. The atomic arrangement is missing electrons in certain places. Where one is missing, we say there's a hole. Where there's a hole, a nearby electron can jump in to fill it. In this way, the holes can also move. If you bring an N layer and a P layer together, free electrons begin to move from the N layer to fill the holes in the P layer. A special junction forms that ultimately produces an electric potential in the material. When sunlight falls on this junction, the light energy can knock an electron off its atom. This results in an extra free electron and leaves behind a corresponding hole. Each of these flows along the electric potential, migrating through the junction to the respective pole. At the pole, a special contact layer collects the electrons. The electrons flow through a conductor, and an electric current is produced.
Okay, so now roughly you understand. Okay, so so when the sunlight falls on the specific material, okay, electrons will be knocked off. And also the material forms a p-on junction, so like a diode only allows one direction of the electron flow. So if we connect it with the external circuit, there is a electron flow or electric current. So then a solar cell is a very large diode because it's the p-n junction only allows one direction flow of the electrons. So then the common types of a solar cell, in fact, the different fabrication technologies. So we have different solar cells. So thin-film solar cell are doping technology. So for silicon solar cell, we are including monocrystalline and polycrystalline. So there are the appearance monocrystalline, polycrystalline silicon solar cell. So you can see mono is like very pure, okay? Poly or mighty crystalline silicon solar cell. So in the future, so you can identify the types of solar cell according to their appearance. Thin film, they are using nanoparticle doping technology. So that's local, like very even, okay? Um, so these are the different types of solar cell. So the most common is silicon solar cell. Now the thin film solar cell with better appearance, they can even flexible. Okay, so then it's also popular. But generally, silicon solar cell has much higher efficiency. Okay, has high efficiency. But the thin film can be powerful, can be flexible. Okay, but lower efficiency, but with a better appearance. So here I provide you the solar cell efficiencies in the laboratory. Okay, so we see the prevailing one is still crystalline silicon solar cell for single, mighty, and thin-film crystalline. Okay, their efficiencies, the blue, okay, is in the market in the lab is around 25. Okay, 25. Okay, and so there are other mighty junctions. They are using different layers. Okay, different materials in responsive to different solar spectra. And sure, there's other thin film solar cell, so relatively lower thin film solar cell, and there's emerging PV like organic Pravaska, etc., quantum dot cell, Pravaska, tandem cells. I think this one is hot because some professor invited me to join his proposal preparation on the Pravaska tandem cells. Okay, it's here. I think the efficiency can be over 30%, can be over 30%. Okay, there are tandems. So they are using different types of materials. I think now is also, yeah, is prevailing because we can see the tandem types with a much higher solar cell. Okay, they're using different materials. Okay, combined together for perfect solar spectral conversion. So, however, you will ask why the conventional one, the silicon solar cell efficiency is 20 something. Okay, that is because, in fact, it will in alignment with the Shockley-Queisser efficiency limit. So for this limit, it provides us, in fact, for the single junction solar cell with a band gap, okay, of 1.34 EV, okay, the maximum efficiency, okay. So if the 1.2 EV then is 30%. If larger band gap is 33.16%. So that is due to, we can see for the solar cell, there are different losses. Not all the spectrum, not all the photons can be converted, the energy can be converted to power. So for the SQ limit, shortly quasar limit. So we see, okay, for different type solar cell with a different band gap. Okay, this is the band gap for silica solar cell, for thin film solar cell, for amorphous silica solar cell. So we can see for thin film solar cell, thin film solar cell with a larger band gap. Okay, with a larger band gap. So that's the reason you see, when we talk about thin film solar cell during cloudy day, okay, for the diffuse solar irradiance, the thin film solar cell performs better because it has we see it has a larger band gap for thin film solar cell. So during the cloudy day, thin film solar cell performs better than the silicon solar cell. Okay, so but the scientists working on, we can see the tandem type, multi-junction type, so different layers, combined materials. Okay, then they can do the sunlight conversion, down conversion or up conversion to convert all them for power generation. So that's our solar cell. So for solar cell, we can see this is a solar cell, usually solar cell connected in series to form a string, okay? To form a series string because the solar cell, the voltage is small, okay? So originally, so we see most solar cell are formed in series. Okay, that's the reason we talk about the failure of a solar cell. So if one solar cell blocked failure, so it will block the whole module, okay, because they connected in series. So that's the reason now they're using the different technologies, the bio bypass, the bypass technology, okay, to avoid that strategy, the bypass diode, okay. So in case the failure of one cell will block the whole module or the whole string, then so even for one more PV modules, the voltage is around 30 voltage or something. It's not high enough because if we understand if the current is too high, there is losses. Okay, there's transmission losses as well. So usually we can see even for the PV modules, we connected them panels modules also in series first, then parallel. Okay, that's mainly for to reduce the losses. Okay, the transmission losses and also to get the required voltage. Okay, voltage for the inverter selection, etc. And then very important, we understand, we remember the solar cell is like a battery, but it's also not like battery because it's is so is we can see its current and voltage is curve. Okay, is curve. So that means this is a solar cell. We can simulate it as a source, as diode, and also with the light and resistance in parallel and in series. This is for the simulation. Okay, and the current and the voltage will vary with the external resistance. Okay, so if the external resistance is zero, okay, this is the external resistance is zero, then we call it short circuit current. And sure, here, if it's open, the resistance, external resistance, is infinite large. Okay, is infinite large. Then it's called open circuit voltage. And sure, this is with different resistance. This is resistance of external circuit. So we get the RV curve. So you are wondering, so the power extraction from the solar cell will vary with the resistance. However, if we plot, we still find a peak power. Okay, how to find peak power, extract peak power? We have a power maximum power point tracer. Okay, so for your system to extract the maximum power output, okay, from the solar cell. However, we have to understand, okay, there's a maximum power point. So then we understand that very general. If the solar irradiance, the RV curve for a solar cell will vary with the solar irradiance level. Sure, strong sun, higher current. So we can see for different solar irradiance level, the voltage doesn't change much, but the current, okay? Strong solar irradiance, so higher current, okay? And then another interesting is solar cell temperature. Okay, the solar cell temperature, sure, the solar cell temperature we can see here. Okay, if solar cell temperature higher and higher, then the voltage will decrease. Okay, will decrease. So voltage mainly decrease with the solar cell temperature. The solar cell temperature higher, so the efficiency will be lower. So I think we have the tutorial session. I let you know the coefficient, the temperature, the performance drop with the temperature increase. Okay, so then you are thinking it's difficult to track the maximum power point and also the RV curve. We have RV curve tracer. We have RV maximum power point tracker, okay, to help you trace and retrieve the maximum power output. So this is a quickly history of the solar energy development, especially for solar PV technology. Okay, first silicon solar cell in the Bell laboratory. And then, sure, it's very expensive at the beginning. That's mainly applied on space satellite. Okay, space satellite, the solar cell, because we know in the space it can always facing the sun. Okay, very sufficient solar supply, and then commercialized only in 1970s, the energy crisis. And then in 1990s, we try to, from the wind farm, we integrate them into our buildings. So anyone know the building here? Are you familiar? That's in the PolyU campus. This is the first BIPV project in Asia. Okay. So this is a student union, the roof of the, I think the 7-Eleven, that building. They were dismantled during the event of 香港的前舰情景给的梁振英I cannot describe in English, okay? Don't write down I speak in Chinese for teaching, okay? I cannot see it share it in English well. 就是香港梁振英的时候说他的建筑有浅见，后来说我们这个没有那个 BD submission，要我们 dismantle。Okay, so these were I think installed over 25 years ago. Okay, this were first BIPV project in Asia. This building. Okay, so the familiar bricks. Okay. And sure, later we talk about the color, the bifacial, and also agrivoltaics. So together with the plants, agriculture. So sure, for the system, I think it's simple. The power supply is DC power. It's DC power. If you, the end user, are AC power, we need design an inverter. Okay, to to convert the DC power, change the DC power into alternating current AC power. Okay. And then usually there's a for standalone system, that's for those places without utility grid, without power supply. So there are standalone PV system with the inverter, okay, with the inverter, so we can provide AC power. But sometimes we just use the direct. Okay, for standalone system, definitely we need a battery bank, okay, energy storage, power storage, battery bank, because we know the solar is not consistent. Okay, daytime, nighttime, cloudy day, raining day. Okay, we need energy storage technology, and we need a battery bank. And if you expect AC power, we need the inverter. Okay, we need the inverter. And also nowadays, even last time I mentioned, because the energy flexibility, nowadays our buildings, we can also integrate the high penetration of renewable energy, just like we integrate wind power, we integrate solar energy power generation, we integrate other technologies into our building, into our cities. So now we make the grid, okay, complicated for the energy user. So that's we now is a hot topic is like energy flexibility and also smart grid. Then we need to consider the high penetration of renewable energy. Okay. So sure, there are many types of BIPV technologies, including like vertical curtain wall, the seesaw curtain wall, semi-transparent glazing, direct integrated PV roofing, PV atriums, PV skylights, overhang PV shading, and etc. So the overhang PV shading and even overhang, I think it's we also shall consider, but not very common in Hong Kong. I think it's very common in Singapore. The overhang, okay, shading. Okay, even using the PV modules as a shading device. So like this is for the solar roof. This is from Elon Musk. Okay, many years ago, he also manufactured the solar tile. Okay, solar from Elon Musk. Okay, the solar claddings. Okay, as a shading device, it can generate electricity. It can also has a shading effect, reducing the heat gain. Okay, building heat gain. And also, we can also the semi-transparent PV curtain wall and solar glazing technology. So we can see, the window can convert some solar energy into power. So with the matrix one type and thin film type, different type. And also, in fact, this we consider the interior air gap. So we also studied that. So for the semi-transparent photovoltaic PV technologies, and this is a story about semi-transparent photovoltaic. This afternoon, I just delivered a public lecture on this. So a semi-transparent photovoltaic window. So previously, we using the matrix as semi-transparent PV and the edged solar PV. The also nowadays even I'm also working on the organic PV, and so the intrinsic semi-transparent solar PV. This is my group. We started to work on this over 20 years ago. Okay, you know I'm very old. And then, in fact, I worked on different types semi-transparent PV window. Okay, the edged type and the colored type with regulation. And now I are continuously working on that. However, for solar PV modules, There are several things I would like to share. One is the shading effect and hot spot. Okay, it's very severe because it can cause the hot spot heating and the failure of the solar cell. So what are the solutions? So we through connected so with the bypass diodes and macro inverters, okay, to prevent okay the failure of one cell, the failure of one module, the failure of the string. In fact, over 10 years ago, I also tried to evaluate the potential of our roof for power generation. Yeah, I got all the useful roof area of Hong Kong. So we have very strict considerations about the ground features, rooftop barriers, shadow slope, and minimum permission area. We filter the area, and also this is the finger. Okay, at that time, I think it's over almost 10 years ago, I get the finger. It's around 10, 11% if our useful roof area, okay, with the solar PV panels can provide around 11% of electricity of Hong Kong. If Oh, every time I couldn't finish my slides. One of my colleagues said every time he, he don't have enough slides to present. But I said every time I couldn't finish my slides. Yeah, this is about the potential development, not very new.
如果是现在百分之4%的话，就是差不多120瓦左右，对吧？屋宇工程學者呂林早前完成研究，發現香港各個地區其實日照強度差唔多，唔少樓宇頂部都有潛力發展太陽能。通常亚热带地区太阳辐射值是比较高，可是呢，我们香港的空闲的土地可以用来发展那个大型的太阳能就是发电厂。可是呢，我们香港有非常非常多的高楼大厦，其实可以把太陽能發電技術整合到我們嘅建築當中。撇除太矮嘅建築、太細同太斜嘅屋頂，同埋被陰影遮蓋嘅位置之後，理工大學計出全港30萬棟樓宇，3/4嘅天台都適合引入太陽能發電系統，面積夾埋有200個維園咁大。全部裝晒嘅話，每年發嘅電可以提升到佔香港總用電量1成。
Oh, okay. Then, in fact, if you have interest, I think you will know more about how to integrate those technology into our buildings, including how to calculate the solar irradiance levels at different installation angle. And I also let you know that optimal installation angle is facing south with the local latitude, okay? Around 20 to 30 degrees Celsius, our module will receive the most solar irradiance. And also, if you, in the future, you want to further investigate, you will know for the double glazing facade, if the air gap, the thickness, its ventilation, will affect the results. And also, because all our solar cell most time very hot under the sunshine, because we know the efficiency, although the theoretical maximum is 33, but the actual one is 20 something, but in real world the efficiency is low, is only around 15 to 20%. So whereas the rest of energy becomes heat, most becomes heat. So heating up our solar cell. And this solar cell very hot. So the thermal application, if there is a perfect um, solution, is also very good. For solar PVT, so the heat can be extracted by air, by water, by phase change material, by refrigerants, okay? Or you consider it as a source, a heat source of the solar PVT module. So then the efficiency, because efficiency not only is very hard, causing the failure of the solar cell, and also we can see for different types of solar cell, okay, their reduction of their power supply, power efficiency, we can see the efficiency is like uh, silicon solar cell more sensitive to the temperature. Okay, we see here is see 1 degree increase will causing 0.42% of efficiency reduction. Okay, so silicon solar cell are more sensitive to the cell temperature, and the thin film is a little bit better. Okay, so this is the efficiency. So therefore, we understand. So thermal management can be also very important. There are many scientific problems because so for the heat extraction or cooling, in fact, it's causing some other problems like a non-uniform temperature distribution. So hot, cool, and also causing failure. So we have different strategies, okay, to provide the uniform cooling and heat extraction of the solar PV modules. So then the second question is about the solar PV and is dirty, okay? Also, most of you will experience they always very dirty. Okay, so in fact, I started to work on this issue over 15 years ago. I'm also very pioneering work in the dirt deposition and self-cleaning of coating. So in fact, for self-cleaning, we have superhydrophobic, superhydrophilic. Two approaches for making self-cleaning agent. So my group make both. So including this one, superhydrophilic. So the titanium dioxide make use of the photocatalysis. Okay, we absorb some UV light. Okay, to provide self-cleaning property. Is photocatalysis to break down. So these are the examples. So you can see my group. Okay. Well, let me see. So this is the self-cleaned surfaces. This is the self-cleaned PV modules. And this is the self-cleaned, okay, PV modules. After a long time, you can see it's very clean and it's very dirty without coating, and it can also break down bird sheets. And also, the cell cooling strategies, we can use relative cooling and the PCM, phase change material, and other strategies to cool down the solar cell. Okay, I will not go into details. So here I provide you the breakdown. So the optical losses, where are the losses? Okay, so most losses are thermal energy becomes heat to heat up our solar cell. And sure, for the boring appearance of PV modules, we also developed the colored solar PV. Okay, so inspired by the nature, so we we develop the colored PV and even with the patterns. Okay, with the patterns. So in recent years, I also try to promote bifacial solar PV technology, okay, because bifacial PV technology, so we see not only this side, but the reflected and the diffuse on the back side can also be received, used for power generation. So we can see if for vertical one, there are two power peak, okay, generation peak. And I think bifacial is especially for those applications vertically or with a larger inclined installation angle. Okay, so this popular becomes commercialized popular because of the advancement of the PIC cell technology and only one slice of solar cell. One slice of solar cell can two sides can receive solar energy and for power generation. It's only one slice of solar cell, okay? And they can be widely used in different scenarios, okay? And the bifacial gain can be up to 70 to 80%, okay? And so in European countries, this very popular as well is agrivoltaics, agriculture voltaics. So combined photovoltaics and agriculture, okay, together. So that's a lot of thing to think. And wow, my time couldn't finish. Okay, I think it's okay. Let me how many slides? Okay, maybe I leave it to tutorial session. Okay, 10 minutes break. Then my student will come and explain the tutorial last week again using 10 minutes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. And I'm sorry for the unclarity last weekend for this question. And today I will further explain how to calculate it, how to calculate the reflectance and transmittance of a film with different incident angles. At first, for this question, several key parameters will be given, such as absorbance of the film, refractive index of air, and the refractive index of the film. And for the delta 1, it is the incident angle. For the delta 2, it is the refractive angle. And to calculate the reflectance, first we need to know the value of the delta 2, and at first we should use the Snell's law to calculate it. We can see that if we have known the n1 sine delta 1 and n2, we can use the Snell's law to calculate the value of sine delta 2. And after that, we can calculate the interfacial reflectance by using the complex equation. After that, we can use the interfacial reflectance to calculate the film reflectance. And finally, based on the conservation of energy, uh, because the sum of absorptance, reflectance, and transmittance is equal to 1, we can obtain the final transmittance. Okay, then in the case of the incident angle is equal to 30 degrees, uh, we can have a try. And first, according to Snell's law, we can calculate the value of sine delta 2. And actually, we don't need to know the actual value of the delta 2 because in the subsequent process, we only use the value of cosine delta 2. So because the sum of the square of sine delta 2 and the cosine delta 2 is equal to 1, we can calculate the cosine delta 2. And then we can calculate the interfacial reflectance. And this is the most difficult and complex step during the whole process. After that, when we get the interfacial reflectance, we can further calculate the film reflectance. And this is very easy. Finally, according to the conservation of energy, we can calculate the final transmittance of a film. Uh, for the cases of different incident angles, we can use the similar process to calculate the interfacial reflectance, film reflectance, and transmittance. And that's all. Do you have any question?
Okay, thank you, Hao Tian. I think because there's a recording, later, so when you go through the procedure, if you get any question, you can come to me or Hao Tian for if you get any question. Okay, I think we will skip maybe. Okay, too difficult. Maybe skip. Okay, lastly, maybe I simplify the version and how to um, how to enhance the functionality of solar PV and also how to better harness the solar energy and the cooling through spectral regulation. So we just have a quick look at the solar spectrum and the application of solar energy totally depends on its photon energy. So we can make use of the photocatalysis, okay, and for solar PV technology, and also for all the band with the photothermal effects, the whole band as photothermal uh, effects. So then, in fact, we can further regulate through the spectral regulation, refine spectral regulation technologies and strategies. So through selective absorption and through the metallic ions and different strategies and to achieve selective reflection. So this is the common application, including reflectance is low E. Okay, is the common application is low E coating. Okay, low E coating is for the solar spectrum with a selective reflection is low E coating. So that's for energy efficiency technologies. So with a single low E, double low E, and triple low E coating. Okay. However, low E coating can reflect the sunlight, especially the near infrared light, but it has its drawback because it has a low thermal emissivity, and it will block the heat leaving the interior space. Sure, and also selective emissivity. Okay, and all the strategies can be achieved. Sure, we can also through the spectral regulation like selective emissivity to anti-reflection to enhance the power generation efficiency. So this is like for PV windows, okay, solar PV windows. So look at here. So there's visible light and near infrared light. And most of visible light will transmitted into the interior space. And most of near infrared light will be absorbed by the window. Okay, then it will radiate heat into the surrounding, and it will also radiate heat into the interior space. Sure, and there is also heat transfer through heat conduction and heat convection. Okay, so that's I'm talking about the U value of our PV our glazing technology, the U value, and also solar heat gain coefficient. So for solar heat gain coefficient, it considers this transmittance and also the secondary radiative heat heat gain. Okay, so because the windows will absorb heat, they become hot, and then they further radiate the heat into the interior and outside. So then I will mainly mention about how to make use of the coolness of a universe. Okay, so because we know now global warming has triggered the highest recorded temperature and hotter, longer heat waves and extreme weathers and etc. And to provide cooling, and we will further accelerate, these changes because even in week one we know, and so more cooling the amount and plus the electricity consumption equals to the heat rejection to our environment. So this we learn from the Sahara Desert because we observed that although the temperature is the surrounding temperature is higher than their body thermal limit. This is their body thermal limit. This is the environment. How can they survive? That is because their hair can reflect the sunlight. They can sunlight reflect the sunlight and also know how to emit the heat into the cold universe. Then you will ask one question about why we talk about greenhouse gases. That is because greenhouse gases in the atmosphere will block the thermal radiation, thermal heat. But luckily, they leaves a window, which is called thermal atmospheric window. So the thermal atmospheric window, if any thermal radiation with wavelength between 3 to 613 micrometer is open. Okay, your heat, your thermal radiation will leave the atmosphere and radiates it into the space. So for the material development, there's over 10 years history at the beginning. So we are the investors using the nanophotonic structures, okay, with the multi-layer photonic structure to achieve this function, high solar reflectance and high thermal emissivity, especially in the atmospheric window. But it's complex and expensive. So around 10 years ago, then we started to work on some materials, polymer-based materials for scalable production purpose. And then in recent years, in fact, they are working on scientists multifunctional relative cooling. So for example, they are weather adaptive. Okay, so summer is provide cooling, winter provide heating. Okay, and even okay, photo luminescence assisted self-cooling function. Even my research groups also working on that. And 2 years ago, CTU professor also published the one with the self-cooling property. They're using the membrane, okay, self-cooling property. And so for my group, in fact, I also worked on the coating fabrication. So first, featured by no zero VOC emissions. The second, we are using polymer-based for scalable, okay, for scalable production. And we also want it durable, okay. So our coating can last for over 15 years. And sure, my research group also we play some do some fancy work. So we introduce phase change material and even quantum common dots into our coating. So for example, here is easy for you to understand. This is a paraffin, solid paraffin is opaque. This is liquid paraffin. Paraffin, just like is the candle. Before we are using the candle. Candle is made of paraffin. Okay, paraffin opaque in solid state and in liquid state is transparent. So we can see that if you together with the coating strategy, if it's cold, it's solid, it will block the cooling effect. Okay, so it's like optical switch, the PCM. Phase change material. These are phase change. We consider paraffin as a phase change material, and phase change material, and also quantum carbon dots. So it's a solar-driven cooling. It's that if there's sun. So, and also I will mainly introduce how to make the dual synergy for cooling and solar harvesting, because we want to. This is a roof We want to provide the building self-cooling and also reflect the solar reflectance and also convert the near-infrared light and the UV light all into visible light in the band gap of a solar cell. And we are using bifacial solar PV. Bifacial, so the rear side also receives a large amount of solar irradiance for power generation. This compared with the monofacial solar PV modules, this strategy can generate more than 30 to 50% electricity. So if you are curious about the application, then I let you know. In fact, so in winter, we can see even in winter, our concrete roof can be very hot. It's around 50 degrees Celsius. So we can cool it to around 20 degrees Celsius. And in summer, this is last summer in July, so we can decrease the surface temperature by over 40 degrees Celsius. So my student, how terrible it is. This is 10th floor. 10th floor, the rooftop 10th floor. So we can see the surface temperature over 75 degrees Celsius. Look like wood, like nature, but it's a solar absorber. Solar absorber. This is 11:30. I think the photo, not the hottest time. So even over 72, 73 degrees Celsius. I think 1 or 2 o'clock, maybe this is over 75 degrees Celsius. So even last year, they also in the that can reduce temperatures by up to. So they also introduced, and also last year, okay, we went to Shanghai for the export, okay, exhibition. This is our executive officer, okay, Li Gao, Li Gaqiu. Okay, his Chinese is very good. So when I introduced our coating, we said, oh, the coating, we can cool down the building. At the same time, we can enhance the power generation. Do you know what he said? 一石二鸟. One stone, two birds. I even don't know it. I just say, oh, synergy, okay? So, okay, so it's great to present our university, okay, to join the event and show our technology development. So where they can be applied? Sure, on the concrete roof and on the metal surfaces, and sure, together with the PV. So this technology, so we can see this is one chamber test in Shenzhen. So we can see, according to our data, so we can cool down the surface by over 40 degrees Celsius. This is with our passive relative cooling pens and without. So the surface reduction temperature can be over 40 degrees Celsius. The room air electricity saving for air conditioning is over 25%, and the interior temperature reduction is over 12 degrees Celsius. So then we want to the synergetic, okay, fine-tuning broadband spectrum. So we want to use passive cooling to cool down our solar cell. So this is the idea, to cool down our solar cell through radiative cooling, and for the bifacial one. So we conducted some field test and theoretical test. It's very because solar cell can be very hot, so if we can radiate the heat into the space, really help. And this is our work. So the so because this is the roof building, the roof as a cooler, and also the reflectance, irradiance, and the converted irradiance can all help us. Okay, for power generation, the efficiency is larger than 30% increase in power output. And these are some field tests. And also, there is one, I think, let me see the type. Okay. So
碳中和2028年同埋2033年嘅短期同埋中期全面實現碳中和。喺2022年咧，我哋理大成立咗校園碳中和
okay, 3 minutes.
負責策略嘅規劃啦。
数据否日后分析。进入第三、四阶段，焦点将会放在项目的展示和绩效评估上。这些数据可用于教学、科研和公众展示。
Okay, I think recently there's a possibility also we will apply this technology in the new building under construction at the moment next to M building, okay, the tallest building. And so to summarize, I think I mentioned the natural and renewable energy resources. We can make a full use of them and transform our buildings from building users to energy harvester. We can harness the light, the heat, the coldness, okay, for our building. So towards building energy efficiency. Okay, now I think 20 minutes for tutorial session. For tutorial session, the first I want to let you know more about the photocatalysis. Okay, I think this is maybe we just watch the video.
This video will demonstrate the mechanism and principles of photocatalysis. In photocatalysis, when light energy is irradiated from the sun or other fluorescent lighting onto titanium dioxide, a strong power of decomposition is generated on the titanium dioxide coated surface. Because of its properties, microorganisms and viruses are continuously decomposed until they become harmless. The effect of photocatalysis is almost permanent. Let's look at how this works. When light energy is irradiated onto the surface of titanium dioxide, electrons are released. The released electrons bind with oxygen to become superoxide anion. The surface of the titanium dioxide becomes positively charged and takes electrons from moisture in the air. The moisture in the air that has lost electrons becomes hydroxyl radical. The hydroxyl radical is often referred to as the detergent of the troposphere because it reacts with many pollutants, decomposing them through cracking, often acting as the first step to their removal. The superoxide anion and hydroxyl radicals, by their power of oxidation destruction, decompose organic compounds such as COVID-19, unwanted bacteria, H1N1, fungus, salmonella, and offensive odors, turning them into water or other harmless substances and disperse them into the atmosphere. This is exactly what happens when using the Shield MD99.9.
Okay, and then let's have a look. And so for photon energy threshold, I think you can further understand by yourself. Okay, and then the last question is regarding a comprehensive question about understanding the RV curve, which is the performance of solar cell, the power performance of a solar cell. Okay, so and then I think I want to let you know more about we are using the RV curve tracer for maintenance and troubleshooting of photovoltaic systems before before the comprehensive question number 3. Okay, let's know the current voltage curve.
So now we're going to look at the IV curve, and I'm going to start quickly because I expect everyone to be pretty familiar. So the red curve is the IV curve, the relationship of current to voltage.
So we have the practice to calculate the fill factor. Okay, then I think we, in fact, also you have lots to search for RV curve tracer. So RV curve tracer is used, okay, to plot the RV curve, let us know the performance of the solar cell, and also not only for the maximum power point extraction, but also for the maintenance troubleshooting of existing photovoltaic system. So in our solar simulation laboratory, we have the RV curve tracer. If you are undergraduate, in fact, we will conduct the experiments, okay, by changing the resistance of the resistor to plot the RV curve, and also try the RV curve tracer, okay, to plot the RV curve. So it's very important to understand, okay, the performance of a solar cell, and also for the maintenance troubleshooting of the PV. And then I designed, this is from a past exam paper, okay, this question. Okay, so very simple. I just let you understand, okay, what is standard test condition, okay, and the cell temperature, because maybe you get very quick. I think this is not the calculation, so you can find what is the cell temperature for standard test condition. Standard test condition. Okay, it's easy for you to find. Standard. Okay. I think I remember solar cell temperature is 25 degree. Okay, 25 degree. Solar irradiance is air mass is air mass AM 1.5. Okay, air mass 1.5. Okay, you can. And also there is a standard test and operational test. I think previously we also I also mentioned, okay, the standard not standard is nominal operational cell temperature. The standard. Okay. Because it's for standard test condition is the irradiance level is 1000 watt per square meter, but in reality, usually strong, very strong solar is solar irradiance is around 700-800 watt per square meter. So we consider this is in reality. Okay, the cell temperature is higher, 45 degrees Celsius. And the lower solar irradiance is nominal operating cell temperature. And then to understand, so if the given for the at standard test condition, we got the module, the operating circuit voltage and current and maximum point, maximum voltage at maximum point, maximum and the size and also the weight and lifespan. I'm asking you to calculate the module efficiency and the fill factor, okay, and draw the curve. So for the module efficiency, I think it's very simple. Is how much power, what's the power output, okay? The power output and over the energy input. So energy input are always used the module surface area, okay? How much solar receives, okay? Per square meter is 1000 watt, then times the surface area of the module. Then the power output is for this module is 200 watt. Then we can calculate for this module is 12.3%. Okay. Then for the fill factor is used to measure the goodness of the solar cell. It is the interior square. Okay. Is this square, this okay, this square area over, okay, this square area. Okay, this area over that area. So sure, the larger the better. Okay, the larger the better fill factor is this area for the maximum power point over the short circuit current and open circuit voltage, the square. We get the fill factor. And then draw the IV curve. Okay, you always have let me know the voltage, the open circuit voltage, the maximum point, and the open circuit, short circuit current. So that means it's a short circuit. Okay, the resistance is 0. Okay, and then you draw the. What about as we mentioned? Because the voltage we can see is only 20-30 voltage. So it's for the inverter. So we require strings connected in series. Okay, if 5 connected in series, how to plot? Okay, the string RV curve. In series is increase of its voltage. Okay, you got the voltage, open circuit voltage. Okay, just 5 times. Okay, you got the maximum point. Then you can plot the RV curve. So you also need to know if connected in parallel. Okay, in parallel is like larger, same voltage but larger current. So connected in. So this is for the possibility 2 questions. Okay. I think one is the calculation of transmittance. Okay, and the other is solar PV. And for wind, for other technologies, I think they will be into the short questions or into the multiple choice questions for the final examination. Okay. So we still have okay. I think some of you have questions. Okay, let me know if you got any questions regarding the teaching contents today, and also if you get any specific questions. Okay. If you don't have, it's also time. Okay. Sorry, I think I always couldn't finish my slides. Okay. Remember, I forgot some of you got questions. Next week, okay, it will be the other research assistant professor will talk about the active energy systems. And also, then after, I think week 11, I will be back. And then is a seminar presentation.